The magic isn't in the stone, but the magic is within you. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that many people associate things with certain objects in which the objects themselves don't necessarily cause the association itself, but you yourself are the cause of the association. For example, I have here a mineral. It's called Brazilianite. You can see it here. It's a fairly cool mineral, right? And you might be asking, well, why is it that I bought this? I made a necklace out of it because I thought it looked cool. I've always been kind of a rock hound. I would always wander out in the desert and find cool minerals and crystals and rocks and bring them back to my grandma. And she had a huge rock collection from when me and my brothers would go out and visit her. We'd always go on hikes and bring her back cool looking stones and crystals that we found, and she would keep them in a big old pile for whenever we came back. We'd always look at what we had and go find things that we didn't have, and had a lot of fun with it. Now, what I'm going to get to is when you go somewhere and you find yourself in an environment which is marketing a lot of these objects, they're marketing a lot more than the object itself. They're marketing more so psychological influences that they associate with the actual object or material. And what they're saying is that this certain object will create these types of experiences. These certain experiences are associated with these other objects. If you're seeking these types of experiences, then invest in these types of objects over here. They resonate at frequencies which allow you to experience these things. And I'll explain all that in a very cohesive manner, I hope, which gives credence in a way to what it is that they're saying, but actually also debunks a lot of the nonsensical association between a lot of these experiences and the association of these experiences with minerals and materials and objects themselves. So, for example, for people to actually come in touch or come in contact with a lot of these objects, it's usually only in a place that kind of is marketing a lot of these very esoteric and mystical properties, because in a lot of ways they're actually selling that stuff more so than the minerals and things themselves. I mean, why do people buy things in the first place? They buy it because they're attracted to it. They buy it because it can serve some sort of purpose, or they buy it because, they're going to do something else with it, something that they have another intention to actually create, actually utilize is what it is that they're purchasing. So not necessarily would there ever be so much of a market for a lot of these things, because a lot of them don't necessarily have functional use. Really the only thing that you can utilize to market them professionally is just to say they're aesthetic to look at, they're a nice mantelpiece. They create like an earthy feel because it's stone, and other things to that extent. They have visually pleasing aspects to them, and other things of that nature. But what they do is they market a lot of experience along with these things and say, this is associated with this and this is associated with that. And they're actually selling more so the experiences associated with these things rather than the product or the material object itself. And so what happens is a lot of people buy into this stuff, and then what happens is they say, whoa, lo and behold, I myself am now experiencing these things. Now, it's fairly easy to actually provide an experiment which could be set up to show that there is no direct relation, and there may be some correlation, but there is no causation between the association between these experiences and the objects. Because, for example, myself and my brothers, we would go out and we would find things like this all the time out in the desert. Crystals growing on little formations and things, just out in the middle of nowhere. And we weren't bombarded by all these psychological experiences associated with these things. So we actually didn't ourselves create these experiences. And by going into these shops, what they're doing is they're filling your mind full of association between certain things and certain events. And then what actually happens is as soon as you leave the shop with whatever it is that you purchased, you immediately house within your consciousness or your subconsciousness the association between this object and the experiences that they sold along with it. And so what happens is you then yourself start creating these experiences. You then yourself are more attracted to environments and locations which they themselves will cause these experiences to actually occur. So it's not necessarily the object which is causing it, it's your association to the object in regards to the experiences that were spoken to your inner soul as you came across it and actually purchased it. And so you're creating the experience. And so that's how the magic is more so in you than the mineral itself, because what it shows is that we can create the experiences that we want. But in a lot of ways, it actually takes some form of motivating factor for us to create the experiences that we want to experience. For example, I'm much more motivated to go to the gym after I go and buy, a couple things of protein, maybe some pre-workout, maybe some BCAAs and whatever have you, because it's like, hey, I spent all my money on this stuff, so I better utilize it and I better go kick my butt so that I can come home and enjoy my stuff that I just bought. So I'm much more motivated to provide the experience associated with the things itself. And yes, so these products do promote growth of muscle, but in a lot of ways, it's actually more so prompting me to actually go and experience the event which would cause the growth, not necessarily the product itself being the initial cause of the growth. If I was to not necessarily exercise or do anything, the products would be pretty useless. And so what we find here is that many things within our life are more so psychological in their nature than they are actually causing physical reactions within our body or being, giving us the results that we actually experience. The placebo effect has a profound effect on the chemistry within your body and the functions of the brain and the experiences that you have. And so what you need to realize is that yes, there is some sort of a dual relationship between. So I had somebody call me, but I'm going to continue on this train of thought here because I thought I was getting somewhere with it. And what we see is that there is a dual relationship that shows itself between, objects which are either internalized or objects that are external to us in regards to the chemical reactions and physical reactions within our body or our psychological intentions and our motivations, which create our physical reactions on the external world. And so, in a sense, every single object that you come across, in a sense and in a way, actually incites some form of chemical and physical reaction within you. And by investing in it, you are actually, in a sense, investing in the experiences that are marketed along with the thing itself. Because you're saying, I myself am putting a dollar, which is my time, and my energy in association with whatever it is that's being marketed along with whatever it's being marketed. And so yes, in a lot of ways, these things actually do incite a lot of chemical and physical reactions within the body, but more so it's because of your investment into the experience. And by you investing into the experience, you are much more likely to invest in other forms which will cause the experiences themselves and manifest the results in which you were initially seeking. And so what we see here is self-fulfilling prophecies actually occurring. But it's kind of funny. What we really see here then is that by marketing things in a way, we can actually fool people into actually buying our marketed ideas in which they themselves become the creators of that which they were initially seeking, even though what we're marketing ourselves doesn't necessarily have any real direct, causation itself, whether it be physical or chemical or psychological, upon the experiences that we're marketing. But by people investing in those experiences associated with our product, what's happening is they themselves are actually creating these physical, psychological, and chemical reactions within their body, which then allow them to position themselves in an environment which amplifies these experiences. And so, yes, in a lot of ways, these things do, in fact, create these spiritual and enlightening experiences for individuals. Because where is it that you find most of these products? You find most of these products in places which associate themselves with a lot of these experiences. And so what happens is when you put yourself in these locations and in these environments, of course you're going to experience these events. And of course you're going to find yourself coming across frequencies and vibrations, which is merely sound and audible reception, which is merely words being spewed forth from another individual into your mind. And whether it's forms and tones of music, or words which have certain meaning, which incite some form of a reaction within your body, causing you to have a certain sensation and feeling. Yet, is it necessarily the material object itself, or is it more so to do with the environment in which it was found within? Because